Well, the big question is, am I actually going to make mince pies? Or should I use my rolling pin as decor instead? I'm Julie from Julie Davis Flower Workshops and Flower Start, the online flower arranging classes. To be honest, I'm keeping this marble rolling pin for when I do make pastry next, but I have been charity shopping and I've found the perfect rolling pin for my Christmas decor.
This is the rolling pin I bought from the charity shop for about £1.50, and what attracted it to me were the individual handles and the roller, so it comes in 3 pieces, and I reckon this is exactly the same as the one my mum had when I was growing up. I'm going to paint the handles red using acrylic paint from Hobbycraft. I like to squirt out a bit onto an old saucer so I don't waste any, and I'm just using the first brush that came to hand. So this is a little artist brush which will be handy because I want to make sure I only paint the handle and don't paint the rolling pin itself. I did give my rolling pin a tiny bit of prep. I have very lightly sanded it. I didn't want to change the shape of it at all, but just rough up the edges, and then I've given it a good wash in soapy water and let it dry. I'm just going to use one light coat of paint because I quite like the fact that I can see the wood grain coming through, and here I am very carefully going around the top edge of the handle in order that I don't get paint onto that flat surface of the actual rolling part of the rolling pin. And when I've done that little bit of neat detail work, I can then go back and paint more boldly up the handles themselves. I then do exactly the same thing with the other handle on the rolling pin, and then I'll set it aside to dry. As I'm using my rolling pin as a decor piece, I'm not going to varnish or seal in the paint, but if you were going to use your rolling pin in real life, you would then at this point, once the paint is dry, add a coat of varnish onto the handles. As you can see here, I'm getting into the festive mood, so I have found my short string of battery operated lights, and I'm just checking that the lights still work, and you can immediately see that with the red handles and the rolling pin and a bit of lighting, it's starting to look really festive already, and I'm going to put these 2 items together to make a little decorative scene with some pastry cutters, and I'll show you that at the end of the video. So I've let my paint dry, and I've decided that I want to put a little saying on the front of my rolling pin. And in fact, this wording was suggested by one of the members of my free Facebook group, Flower Start World. So you'll have to check the details out for that, and I've left them in the show notes underneath the video. I've used my Cricut machine to print out on white the phrase "Roll on Christmas" with some snowflakes at the side. So I'm using my scraper to make sure the white vinyl adheres to my transfer tape. You see me here peeling off the backing paper to reveal the phrase, so it's back to front there. When I flip the transfer tape over, you can read that it says "Roll on Christmas." I then position that onto my rolling pin, trying to get it straight, and I've decided I want it over to one side of the rolling pin rather than in the middle. So I am smoothing that down in place with my fingers and then going back over it with my scraper tool just to make sure the vinyl adheres to the rolling pin itself. And then when I've done that, I will peel back the transfer tape, and that is this piece of decor finished. I'm thinking now about making a flower arrangement with my bag of plain flour for pastry making, and then I've looked out some pastry cutters that have got a red tone to them, and it would be really lovely just to imagine that I have just stopped making mince pies and you're just catching a glimpse of everything sitting together. In actual fact, this turned out to be really impractical because I couldn't have something sitting out on my island unit getting in the way, so I recreated this look on my tiered tray on my windowsill. And if you want to see how I made my tiered tray, I will leave a link to that video up above. And then the last finishing touch is to drape my fairy lights around my placement pieces, just to link everything together visually. And if you had a piece of green here, I would then add that in. So perhaps nearer Christmas, you might have offcuts for your Christmas tree, a little bit of Christmas pine, and really get the festive vibe going. And here is the finished placement of my rolling pin. I've set up this little display on my kitchen windowsill, and you can see it all looks really pretty together. And as well as the pastry cutters, I've got some little Christmas decorations I've made with red beads on them, a Christmas mug that's got a pot plant in it, and then a little bit of candlelight as well. So it all looks very festive, and I can start adding and changing to that as we get closer and closer to Christmas. And then here is a little bit of a nighttime shot, so you can really see how well those battery operated lights show up in the evening time. Well, that's all from me for now, and I'll see you again next time.